In this video, we are going to rebuild this 500K YouTube summarizer. We will build a clean web app where you can paste a YouTube URL and instantly get a deep analysis, key takeaways, actionable insight, and even a chatbot that lets you talk directly to the video. We'll start by designing the entire front end using V0.app by Vercel, and then switch into Cursor to build all the features step by step. If you're new here, hi, my name is Joanna, and I have been building products for the past 10 years. And in this channel, I want to help you build your own, even if you're not technical. All the resources and prompts are listed in the description down below, and I suggest grabbing them first so you can follow along without missing anything. With that being said, let's jump into building. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do before building anything, we need to generate the product requirements document. And you can use any large language model to do that. I am using now ChatGPT. So I specify here in my prompt what we are building. We are building a learning app that will help us extract insights from long YouTube videos. I imagine it to have two screens. The first screen, it will be the landing page where the user will be able to input the YouTube URL, click analyze, and then there would be a second screen. The left panel will have the previous videos that we analyzed. The middle panel will show the key takeaways, tasks, and learnings from that analysis. On the right side panel, there will be an interactive chat interface where we can chat with the video. I specified that I want that to be built in Next.js and use OpenAI for the model. I gave it also a reference image of how I want the design to be. So basically super minimal, similar to Notion or linear. It should reference this kind of design in the PRD. Now I'm in the V0 app and I'm gonna paste here the PRD, and I will also tell it create an then markdown file in the code with this PRD so the junior developer can understand what the project is. And that will help us when we export the code to Cursor, we will already have the PRD there. All right, so let's now click generate. Okay, V0 generated our app. Here you can see generated all the code that we need. As you can see, it also added the PRD here, and it will be very helpful when we export the code to Cursor. So Cursor have an understanding about our project, about the features and everything. Here is the app exactly as we wanted it. It has an input field for pasting a YouTube URL. It has an input field for pasting a transcript. Here we can see past analysis. So these are essentially mock data at the moment. When we click view all, we have the three panels on the left where we can see previous video analysis. We can see here the summary, the key points of the analysis, the topics, and also the transcript. And on here on the right panel, we can chat with the video. But as you can see, the chat is not working. It's just a mock response because we did not yet build the AI functionality that analyzes the transcript. And here, if we add essentially a YouTube URL, it will not work because, as I said, we just built the front end and we will then build the functionality to fetch the transcript from the URL in Cursor. I went ahead and I did some design changes, like particularly changing here the buttons to this pill form, to this more rounded form. But because the purpose of this video is not to teach you how to design, but actually we want to focus more on using Cursor to build the functionalities, we will not focus on the design parts in this. But one thing I want to show you is that in case you want to change a design, you can use the design feature here. What is great about V0 is that it has already integrated design systems. You could add your own design system, but you could also see the default design systems that V0 offers. You can select very different designs and see how it looks like. And the good thing about this is that because they have them integrated, you don't need to prompt to change the whole design, but you can directly see how it looks like with this integrated designs here. Okay, I'm happy how it looks like currently. What we will do next, we want to save the code to GitHub. Here I connected my GitHub, my account. Here would be the V0 YouTube Insights app. I would call it Learn from YouTube. I will create a repository and we'll be ready to clone that repository in Cursor in the next step to add the functionality first of fetching the transcript from the URL and then using OpenAI to analyze the transcript. So now if we go to GitHub, we will see the whole code here, which we will now clone to Cursor. Okay, so now we need to clone the repository to Cursor. And how we do that, we go here, we click copy this link, and we go back to Cursor, clone the rep, and we should start the rep. And we should now basically have the code exported to Cursor. What we need to do first thing is to open the terminal and install all the dependencies by writing npm install into the terminal. So now it will install all the dependencies. You need to wait. So as you can see, it starts creating the dependencies and installing them. Okay, the next thing I want to do is to see the app in my local host. What we need to do is to write this command, npm run dev. Okay. So here it's in local host. We can now see the app. Great. Going back, as we said, this feature is not actually working. This is the first feature that we will implement to fetch the transcript from the URL. So let's go ahead and start. The first thing that we need to do is to create our environment variables. And this is to store the API keys that we will need for the features. Let's go ahead and do that. And the first variable we need is an OpenAI API key. And we need that because when we fetch the transcript from the YouTube video, we'll need to use OpenAI to analyze the transcript and get us the results. And the reason why we want to write it in this format, so OpenAI _ API _ key, because we want to make it compatible with the Vercel AI NPM library, because we will be using Vercel AI SDK to interact with OpenAI. And the second variable we would need is an API key from WebShare. WebShare is a proxy service that we will need to use to build our first feature. So I would just suggest go ahead and create a WebShare account and get your API key and then input it here. And I will explain a bit more about it when we will start building the first feature. Okay, so now we will go ahead and build our first feature. And the feature is when we input the YouTube URL, it should fetch the transcript. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, to build this feature, we have this prompt that I will explain it to you what it does. So the first thing that we want to instruct Cursor is to create this Next.js API route, because this is the backend endpoint which our frontend will call whenever the user clicks analyze. And then we have the requirements. So the first one, we specify the library that it should use, which will essentially fetch the transcript from the URL. And how I found this library is I usually just do Claude search to understand what is the best library for my particular use case. And number 228 is the logic, the requirements for our proxy service. And this is why before we needed to input the API key for WebShare. So WebShare is the proxy service that we will use. And why we need to use a proxy service is because you could block non-residential IPs to prevent scraping abuse. So we need to use a proxy service that will provide us with residential IPs. And I chose WebShare after I did a research on Perplexity, which are, the best and cheapest proxy services. And it came out that WebShare has a very generous free tier with 10 proxies and 1 gigabyte bandwidth. So we will be using that. I think it's perfect for our use case for now. Okay, so it successfully built the feature. So now we could extract the transcript from a URL. How I tested that, I took and I told it to test this URL. If transcript is extracted, it created this curl command, it unsuccessfully extracted the transcript. Now, if we go back to our local host, and input the URL and click analyze, it's not yet working because we need to enable and build this functionality. So let's go ahead and build this functionality. Okay, we go ahead and write the prompt for building the next functionality. I wrote exactly what it should do next. Here's the prompt. So now that we successfully build the functionality where we fetch the transcript from the URL, we need to build the functionality of when the user inputs the URL and clicks analyze, that it uses OpenAI GPT-4o mini model to analyze the transcript and return the key learnings, summary, topics, and also the transcript to show on the second page. I already have the OpenAI API key in the environment variable folder, and I want to use Vercel AI SDK. So for that, I will first use the plan mode and let AI plan it. Let's go ahead and let it plan. As you can see, it will now start planning. It will now start reading the whole code to understand it. It checks the existing components to understand the data structure. Okay, so it told us the PRD mentions neon Postgres for data persistence, but setting up the database is additional work. For this feature, how would you like to handle storing the analysis results? Use a local storage, set up neon database for full persistence, keep in server memory. Okay, so for now, we'll not work on storing the data in a database. We will just tell it use option 1 for now store in local storage. Okay, so now it creates the plan for the analysis feature. It writes here the approach, install Vercel, great. Because we told it that we want to use the Vercel AI SDK, it will now install the packages. It could create the analyze endpoint and fetch the transcript. Great. Files. Okay. Great. So it wrote essentially the approach. So we would need to read that. And if we are happy with it, we can also read here the to-dos, install, create the endpoint, update the homepage, form handling, API, update install panel to accept and analyze this data. Okay, great. So now let's just build it. So now it will start installing all the dependencies. Now install the dependencies. Okay, what we can see now here, it opened basically a browser and it started testing. So now it analyzes. It inputted a URL and now it analyzes. Let's see if it success. Okay, seemingly it worked. Funny that it chose never give you up. Okay, so it seemingly now finished all the tasks. So let's go ahead and just test it. So here I will just take this URL and analyze it. Let's hope for the best. Amazing, worked. So here we get the summary, the key points, what the topic was about, and the transcript. Amazing job. If the chatbot works, what is said about money? Okay, so yeah, it does not work as expected because we did not yet build this feature. Let's go ahead and build that. All right, so now I will just take here a screenshot and I will go back to cursor, open a new chat, and now I will tell it, now we need to enable the chatbot functionality so user can chat with the video through the transcript. I will again use plan mode here. It's now planning. Okay, so it wrote another plan for that particular feature. It explores the code base, understands the functionality, and plans how to implement the feature that we ask for. So implement AI-powered chat functionality, user Vercel SDK to allow users to ask questions about the video using the transcript as context. It has to create a chat API route with stream text and transcript context, refactor chat panel to use chat hook with streaming. Okay, let's do that. Okay, it finished the to-dos, installed packages and whatever was needed to enable the chatbot functionality. So now it's testing it. Okay, now it's navigating to localhost. So we can actually even see it from here. Okay, let us see what it does. It didn't put the URL. Now we'll analyze it. Shows us the steps that it took to test it. Okay, it did whatever it needed to do. Let's check it. npm dev. Let's go into localhost to check it. Let's just input this URL. Okay, it analyzed. Now let's check. I cannot even write here. Let's see what's the issue. I will just copy that and go back to cursor and look at this issue. Now it will fix it. Okay, now let's go back. Okay, now it fixed it. So now seemingly I can write what has been said up new line. Okay, now I can write, but it does not send it. So we need to go and fix that again. I can write, but get the endpoint. Okay, so let's look if it works. I get this error again. The expected behavior that when I send message, I should have in context the transcript to be able to reply to my message. Okay, let's go back, see if it's fixed. Now the chatbot works, but we have this issue that I get the response and I cannot scroll. So I will tell that. I'll just go back. Okay, so what we would need to do is just tell it that the right panel must be scrollable, the content inside the message container must be overflow, the panel must not expand, the chat area should have a fixed height and a scroll bar. So that should fix that. Okay, so now let's go back and see if it was fixed. Okay, now it's fixed. All right, so now we have all the features ready. Let's do another test together. So let's take another video. Okay, let's just analyze this one. Great. it works. So we have here again successfully the summary, key points, topics, the transcript. Now, if I would say what has been said about mergers, has been said about M&A. Great, so it works. Now I will do a last fix. I will just fix this markdown format. I would just need to go back and set render the markdown correctly. Okay, now it renders the markdown correctly. So we have a fully working app. Let's just test once again with another video. Let's take a short one. Okay, let's just test once again. We input YouTube URL. Now we'll analyze it. Okay, great. It worked. We have the summary, we have the key points, topics, and the transcript. What has been said about vulnerability? Great, now we're done. The one thing that I want to mention is that in case you don't like the summary output, or you don't like the output of the key points and action plans, or you don't like how the chatbot replies, what you can do, you can actually go back to cursor and change the prompt that triggers basically the analysis and the chatbot. And where you find it is here in the analyze. So here in the root folder, here you have the prompt for the transcript. Currently, cursor generated this prompt, so you could easily modify it to add more information about how you want the specifics of your analysis to be analyzed. And also here we have the chat prompt. So here is the system prompt, your helpful AI assistant that answers questions, whatever. So if you don't like how the chatbot answers, you could go ahead and modify the instruction prompt. And that's it. You now have your own version of YouTube Summarizer. If you want to keep improving this project, you can add a database to store everything and user authentication, plugin payments, and you can actually start selling it this way as a real product. If this tutorial helped you, feel free to like, subscribe, and comment on what you want to build next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next.